New York elected a Muslim terrorist socialist as its mayor. We all have reason to be worried. We have people who are coming to our country who hate it and who want to conquer it. And we see this in the mayor of Dearborn, who told Christians they weren't welcome there. We see it in Muslims who do not believe they should have to follow noise ordinances so they can play their call to prayer at 3:30 in the morning. We see it in their open statements from their mosques about what their goal is to conquer the United States. I'm very proud of the governor of Texas for standing up and saying that the nation's largest Muslim civil rights group is nothing more than a terrorist organization, and he's taking them on, and I think it's great.
Oh my God, Randy Fine is such a fat fuck. Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I want to talk about Zionism and the Zionists' new strategy. For those who listen to the podcast on a relatively frequent basis, they know I'm not the biggest fan of Zionism. I'm not the biggest fan of Israel. I got nothing against Jews, obviously. I got nothing against Israel as a country. I want Israel to do well. I want every country to do well, because I want people in those countries to do well. But I'm not, you hear this question as, does Israel have the right to exist? Do you think Israel has the right to exist? And it's like, I don't even know if countries have rights to begin with, so it's sort of a stupid question, to be honest. It's like, what do you mean rights? What rights do countries have exactly? Individuals have rights, people have rights that have been ordained by God, or that's the way you conceptualize it. But I don't think, do countries have rights? I don't know. Countries are creations of man, but individuals themselves are creations of God. They're the ones who have rights, not countries. So when people ask, do you think Israel has the right to exist? It's like, Israel does exist. I want it to do well. But frankly, it's a stupid question. But I digress. But because Israel's been under so much scrutiny over the last really year, but 2 years, pretty much ever since they went crazy in Gaza after the tragedy that was October 7th, and it was a tragedy. Don't make no mistake about it. But ever since then, Israel's been, they sort of went crazy over October 7th, and Israel's been under great scrutiny since then. And their defenders are aware of this, so they're trying to make Israel less a prevalent question, or a less prevalent topic, because they know Israel's become so unpopular. And it seems to me the new strategy is, we can't really defend Israel, so let's shit on Muslims. That seems to be the new strategy, as you heard Randy Fine basically said. But before we get into all of that, I want you to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen to this amazing audio experience. I'd really appreciate it. So as I played the clip, that was Congressman from Florida, Randy Fine, this fat pig, which is ironic. He's, Randy Fine being a fat pig. If you don't understand the irony in that, I'm not going to lay it out. I'm not going to, do a little research. But Randy Fine, he's been going on a jihad, no pun intended, against Muslims. If you just look at his Twitter page, every single Twitter post is him shitting on Muslims, shitting on Muslims, shitting on Muslims. And I'll read you some of his posts that he's been doing on X, because it's frankly obsessive. And I played the clip at the beginning of the podcast. And he first off, he calls Mamdani a terrorist. Okay, I don't think there's any evidence he's a terrorist. He calls him a socialist. Okay, that's fair. But it's like he's a terrorist. Why? Because he's a Muslim? I don't know. That doesn't seem to be fair to me. And, he's been doing all these ridiculous tweets. 6 days ago, there was a post of Muslims praying in New York, and Congressman Randy Fine, okay, this is a congressman from Florida's 6th District, and he says, the barbarians are no longer outside the gate, they're inside. This is happening in Brooklyn, New York. America must wake up now. And again, the video he's responding to is a bunch of Muslims peacefully praying in Brooklyn, New York. And they're barbarians for exercising their First Amendment right in the United States by praying to God. I thought us on the right want people praying to God. Remember, Islam is an Abrahamic religion. Okay. they all essentially believe in the same God. They just have different interpretations of different religious practices: Islam, Judaism, Christianity. So, like, we're supposed to be mad at Muslims for praying in Brooklyn, which is one of the most diverse cities, New York City overall, one of the most diverse cities in the world. They're barbarians for praying. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That seems kind of ridiculous to me. And again, you're seeing this another, and he again calling Mamdani a terrorist. Like how that's, I mean, that is sort of, I'm not going to say racist, but it is Islamophobic. It's like, why, he's a terrorist because he's Muslim, Mamdani? I don't like Mamdani because of his economic policies and some of his social policies because he's very far left. If anything, I don't think he's anti-Semitic, Mamdani. I think he might be anti-white. I mean, he's talked about having different tax brackets based off skin color. I mean, he has suggested that. He's walked it back since he got elected. But to the extent Mamdani has any bigotry, my guess it is against successful white dudes, not Jews. And it's like, and I've been seeing this more and more, clips of people like Charlie Kirk criticizing Islam and saying how it's not compatible with the West. And, in fact, even my mom, who's a lovely lady, shout out to my mom, she's, over the last few weeks and months, she's been sending me clips of Charlie Kirk talking about how Islam is not compatible with the West. And it's like, I understand that, and I sort of agree with that, but why is this all being circulated right now? Like, this sort of goes down to, and I'm going to play this clip, a little bit of a longer clip, but it's important. This has been a tactic, it seems, not just now, but for years, when you have Zionists who can't defend Israel on its merits, because the history of Israel, at the end of the day, I think an objective reading of the history makes Israel look like the bad guys overall, not the good guys. The concept of trying to give the Jewish people a state after everything they had been through was a noble idea. I'm not criticizing the concept. I mean, they go through a Holocaust. I don't blame people for wanting, to give them some sort of land. I mean, they were land without, people without a land. The problem is the land they took, it wasn't a land without a people. There were people there in Palestine. So, I mean, that's sort of the rub. But I don't even want to get into all the history because I'm not an expert. But, I understand history and I digress. But you can see that over the years, this has been a tactic used by Zionists. And this sort of leads me to the clip I want to play of Bill Maher and Sam Harris. So these two guys are atheists, but they're also huge Zionists. Like, what? And I've talked about this on the Weekly Wrap a few weeks prior. It's like, what is with all these prominent atheists who also love Israel? It's like, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. It's like a gay dude being homophobic. It's like, what? What are you, suicidal? I don't... that doesn't make sense. That's a bit of a conflict of interest. And the reason why it's a bit of a conflict to be an atheist but also Zionist is because Israel is a Jewish state. It's by definition not secular. If you believe religion is bad, which has been the thesis of Bill Maher and Sam Harris for decades, you could look at the tape. Bill Maher did a whole documentary, religious, very good documentary, about the evils of religion. But then these two love Israel. Like, what the fuck? What? What do you? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't compute. Like, what's up with that? And over 10 years ago, there was this famous debate between Bill Maher and Sam Harris and Ben Affleck. Really, between Sam Harris and Ben Affleck. They were on Bill Maher's show. And I think this influenced a lot of people. This was sort of like, I think, a moment in the political culture when you had Sam Harris being called an Islamophobe for criticizing Islam and by Ben Affleck. And Sam Harris politely sort of, dismantled Affleck's argument. And at the time, I was very much on Sam Harris's side. It's like, yeah, I don't think Islam is compatible with the West because it is true in a lot of Islamic cultures, women don't have equal rights, gays don't have equal rights. There's a lot of problems with these cultures. Violence is more prevalent. And I sort of bought into that narrative, and I still kind of agree with it. I do think Islam is different than Christianity, certainly, and Judaism. But the problem is it's become clear to me that this argument is being weaponized by Zionists to defend Israel's behavior. Because you even saw this, Bill Maher had Anna Kasparian on his podcast this past weekend, and he starts berating her and asking her, if you had to live in any country or any city in the Middle East, what would it be? And he's like, and Anna Kasparian was like, well, I want to live in America. And Bill Maher was like, no, you're not answering my question. Would you rather live in Saudi Arabia or Israel? Tel Aviv or, one of these other Muslim cities? And it's like, obviously, I'd rather live in Israel and Tel Aviv, but that's not the point. That doesn't excuse Israel's behavior toward the Palestinians in Gaza and how they keep trying to overthrow different countries in the Middle East that they don't get along with. And the problem with that really is it forces us to get involved because we have this ridiculous relationship with Israel. But like I said, I'm going to play this clip, a little bit of a longer clip, but I think it's important for you to understand why this argument that's been used for years now to defend Israel from criticism.
Have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world, I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion, thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is, it's intellectually ridiculous. Even it gets.
So hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is.
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something,
well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so nuts.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
That's
ideas
just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It is
it's an ugly
apostasy.
It is
one basic liberal
let me
principle
unpack
is
it.
tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is to some extent true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of fanatics and jihadis are Muslim, but the people who are standing up to them, Malala, incredible Muhammad Ali Dadak in Iran, in prison for 9 years for speaking up for Christians. A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Or how about the more than a billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punish women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second.
Wait a second. And don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims
wait a second.
stereotyping.
Wait a second.
And you painting the whole religion with that.
No, let's get down to who has the right answer here. A billion people, you say. All these.
So yeah, that's a very famous clip. And again, I think it was sort of a seismic moment in sort of domestic politics, because this was especially big on the left, because you were starting to see a split between, what you could say the more woke side of the left and maybe the more classical liberal. And I was on the side of the classical liberal, even though I was on the right. I've always been on the right. I've sort of changed, as you know, like every young conservative goes through like a libertarian phase in high school. And then you get into the real world and you're like, I don't know about this libertarian crap. I mean, being a libertarian is nice when you're making over $150K a year and you don't have any kids and you're totally independent. But unless you're making that amount of money, being a libertarian, it's like, wow, I don't know how feasible it really is. But I was on the side of the classical liberals. It's like, yeah, Islam isn't compatible with the West. Islam is different than some of these other countries, and some of these other religions. So I was on Sam Harris's side. The problem is, though, this weapon is being weaponized as a way to shield criticism from Israel. It really is what's going on. I mean, you're not just even seeing this with Randy Fine. Again, I've been seeing all these compilations of Charlie Kirk that's being pushed on Twitter that people like my mom have been sending me. Again, shout out to my mom. She's great. But there's like, oh, Islam, it is not compatible with the West. They're taking over Michigan. They're taking over Brooklyn. It's like, no, they're not. They're not doing that. And people saying they're going to bring Sharia law. It's like, that's not gonna happen. There's no way that Sharia law can be implemented in the United States of America because we have protections. Those same protections that protect Muslims for praying are the same protections that allow us to not have to pray toward, it's really the same God, but you could say the Muslim God or whatever the hell, Muhammad. Okay. Allah. It's the same God. They're all three of them are Abrahamic religions, okay? And look, it is true that in Muslim countries, women do not have equal rights in many of them in the same way other countries do. And gays don't have the same sort of support. Minorities are not protected. A lot of these countries aren't democracies. That's all true, totally fair. But it should be noted that in Israel, it's not like Arabs or Muslims necessarily have the same rights as Jewish people do. It is true that women, for the most part, have equal rights. Gays are protected. And frankly, Israel weaponizes that fact, as I'm saying, to try to get people from Congress to continue to support Israel. I mean, they have these specific trips they'll take different congressmen on, depending on their interests, whether it's gay rights, women's rights, etc., particularly on the Democrat side, to get them to convince them to support Israel. Many Republicans will support Israel regardless, just because of the religious components, it being the Holy Land. But that's the trick I'm seeing these Zionists do, is we can't defend Israel. We want to get Israel out of the public conscious, at least for now. So let's shit on Muslims. Let's make, jihad's coming to America. Mamdani's going to turn New York City into a giant mosque. It's going to be one big mosque where New York City used to be. We're replacing the Statue of Liberty with the Statue of Muhammad, which is a little sacrilegious for the Muslims, to be honest, but they'll do it just to spite us, I guess. Could you imagine that? We can't show his face, but we're going to make a statue about him. Where that'd be like you have a censored bar over his face. That'd be funny. But that's the trick that's being pulled here, and it needs to be called out. Again, I agree with many of the criticisms that Sam Harris laid out in this clip, and even some of the stuff Randy Fine has talked about. I mean, Randy Fine also went on CNN, and he was asked about Trump saying we don't want to take in Somalians. And Randy Fine made a point that was true, and he basically said not all cultures are the same, and we should take people in who share our values and not take people who don't. And that's fair. Like, that's a good point by Randy Fine. I want to be fair to the man. That's a good point, and I agree with that. The problem is, though, again, he's trying to use this battle of cultures as a way to justify genocide, which is what Israel was doing in Gaza for 2 years, effectively. I mean, I don't think genocide was the goal for Israel. I think the goal was to ethnically cleanse Gaza. But genocide became the means to that goal because the Palestinians weren't leaving Gaza. Right? Because you got to remember, from Israel's perspective, they want it to be at least 80-20 Jew to non-Jew in Israel. And they want a greater Israel, but you can't have a greater Israel because the Palestinians are outbreeding the Israelis. So you're not going to have that 80-20 ratio that's needed for a greater Israel. So, and if the Palestinians aren't going to leave, the only other option you have is to kill them. And that's what was happening. And, I know a lot of Israel defenders will dispute this, but I'm sorry, just look at what Ben Gvir was saying, Smotrich, people in Bibi Netanyahu's cabinet. And frankly, if you look at the Israeli right, and if you read Israeli media, everyone knows that a greater Israel is what Israel would love to happen. I mean, Israel doesn't even like talking about their borders because that's why they do all these settlements. And again, that doesn't mean that there isn't a point to be made that Islam has its own problems. It does. But if it's going to be used as an excuse to justify Israel to not talk about Israel's atrocities when it comes to Gaza, or to excuse Israel's behavior, no. I'm not going to play that game. And the game needs to be called out. So, anyway, I just wanted to make that point. I've been seeing this more and more. It needs to be called out. Randy Fine's a pig. He said other disgusting things. He's justified killing Americans who were in Gaza, innocent children that are in Gaza. He is a disgusting human being. And the fact that Trump endorsed him in the special election in Florida's 6th district was a disgrace. Trump should be ashamed of himself for that endorsement. I mean, my guess is Trump didn't really know anything about him. But still, man, you can endorse Randy Fine. Randy Fine cares more about Israel than he does about the United States. That's obvious. So, terrible endorsement. But, yeah. So, I think I made the point pretty clear. It's totally valid to criticize how Islam is not compatible with the West. I think there's truth to that. But it should not be used to be weaponized against, people who are critical of Israel. And that's what I see happening, and it needs to be called out. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on this whole situation. So, anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, folks. Thanks for listening. Again, please subscribe whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I really appreciate it. The viewership these past couple of weeks has been great. Off the charts, I'm gaining subscribers on all the platforms. It's been awesome. I really appreciate the support. I'm an independent content creator. I'm trying my best, and I'm hoping I'll get some new stuff to make the podcast experience better and maybe some video format. So really appreciate the support, folks. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.